great. How do I use money so that Jesus looks greater than money? That's the key question. How do I use my house so that it's more plain that Jesus is more precious than my house? More valuable than my house? How do I do my career so that it's plain that Jesus is more precious than my career? How do I handle my body so that it looks obvious that Jesus is more precious? This is not an easy life. Those are hard questions to even understand, and then even harder to live. And most American Christians don't even ask them. They just coast right into worldliness along with everybody else. We are to magnify Christ. Like a telescope, not a microscope. Magnify. Microscopes make teeny-weeny things look bigger than they are, and telescopes make gargantuan things look more like they really are. Which do you do for Jesus? We are telescopes. Somebody sent me a mug about a year ago with a telescope on it, and I knew exactly why he had sent me this mug, and it sits on my thing in front of my desk there to remind me, is today your life functioning like a telescope for somebody? They put their eye to it and they say, whoa, I didn't know he was that important. That looked like twinkle, twinkle, little star, and it's a galaxy. Not an easy life. It's a miracle life. At the end of the age, we're going to be doing this forever. I heard the living creatures and the elders and the voice of many angels, numbering myriads of myriads and thousands of thousands, saying, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. That's what we're going to say. Forever. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, infinitely worthy, more worthy than any of us collectively can begin to imagine. He's worthy to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. And I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and in the sea. These are talking animals. You're going over this so fast, you ever see that? Let's start over again. And I heard every creature in heaven, on the earth, under the earth, that's worms, and in the sea, that's squid, all of them saying, to Him who sits upon the throne, to the Lamb be blessing and honor and glory and might forever and ever. Squid and worms and frogs and flying creatures saying. Lewis knew what he was doing when he had animals talk. This is eschatological. Just like the rocks are going to cry out in due time, animals are going to cry out in due time. Everything will give vent to the worth of the King of Kings. There'll be nothing silent in the universe. Oh, that you might get a head start with your life and your voice. Now, we exist, therefore, to display the glory of Christ, to make Him look great by the way we live and talk and think. The reason for that is that Christ is the ultimate, supreme manifestation of God. He is God. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father. From now on you will know Him and have seen Him. And Philip said to Him, Lord, show us the Father, and it's enough. Jesus said to him, have I been so long with you, and you don't know me? That's breathtaking. Show you the Father? Poached egg. Or the Father in the flesh. Jesus said to him, have you been so long with me and you don't know me? In these last days, He has spoken to us by a Son, whom He appointed the heir of all things, through whom He created the world. He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of His nature, and upholds the universe by the word of His power. Jesus is speaking the universe into existence every millisecond. If He was silent, there would be no universe. And you would go out of existence, poof, just like that. He holds you in being by the word of His power. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have beheld His glory, glory as of the only begotten of the Father. The reason we exist to display the majesty and the beauty and the worth of Christ is because Christ is God. And He upholds all things, and He created all things, and they all exist to display Him. Everything exists to display Him. The universe exists to make God known. The heavens are telling the glory of God. Psalm 19, verse 1. Get the video set, the Earth, or the blue planet, and spend 8 hours worshiping. Did you know that there's a plant? You won't believe this. I don't believe it. But they said so. National Geographic, except on the issue of evolution, surely doesn't lie. There's this plant in some jungle somewhere, and it flowers, and there's a little pool of poisonous water down there. And little bugs come up over the edge, and at the top here it's slippery, and they lose their footing and fall in and die. And they feed the plant. Now that's important. That's interesting. But that's not the interesting thing ultimately. The interesting thing ultimately is that there's a spider who only lives by dropping by his little silver cord down into this and plucking those little dead animals and eating them. Let us all bow down and worship mindless matter and natural selection, and just, I mean you just need to know where I'm coming from. When we get to the judgment seat, and Mr. Dawkins and Hitchens and they say, ooh. And God says, now, what was that you said about the way that spider came into being and the way humans came into being? And he said, well, we thought it was just nothing. I mean, just forces that just kind of, it just, happen. And I think God's going to look at me. He's just going to laugh, and the universe is going to shake. I mean, I cannot take it seriously. I know you scientists think, oh, this guy's so out of touch. I can't. I've tried to take it seriously. It is so laughable. Hear it. Write it down, God. Piper said in San Luis Obispo, this thing is so laughable, it takes an absolute believer to embrace it. Well, I don't know how I got on that. I was trying to illustrate that the universe exists to display the glory of God, and therefore those who try to give an account for the universe that exists in a non-God way are not only laughable, but they are blasphemous. This is God's story. The heavens are telling the glory of God. Open your ears, He's saying. It is all over the place. And we will give an account of whether we heard that word or saw that glory. This is not fun and games here. This is God speaking to us. You ride this coast. Now, here I am. I'm down at a little hotel about 15 minutes that way. I have a little, I don't know what they call it, cottage inn or something like that. And there's a swimming pool by the ocean. I thought, that is ridiculous. Look at that. It's about, it's about the size of this stage, not quite. And I looked at the pool, and then I looked up. I thought, this is a man pool, and that's a God pool. It's everywhere. There are voices everywhere. Just open your eyes and open your ears and pray for the Holy Spirit to give you a sensitivity of what the wasted life would be. Namely, a life that doesn't see it, a life that doesn't hear it, and a life that isn't shaped by the meaning of the universe to display the glory of God. We are being called to join Him in His own self-glorification. Now, that last statement is controversial, and I need to support it for just a few minutes. This idea that Paul has that the unwasted life is a life in which he will, by life and death, make Christ look great because the universe exists to display God through His Son. That is not Paul's idea. That's God's idea for Paul, which means it's God's idea for the universe, which means God is very self-exalting. If God comes to you and you say to Him, "Why do I exist?" and He says, "To make much of me," you're hearing absolute truth. And people really stumble over this truth. You exist to magnify me. Go about it, and I will hold you accountable for whether you've done it or not. Text after text after text. Isaiah 43:6. "Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth, everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory." God created you for His glory, that is, to make Him look glorious. He elected Israel for His glory. Jeremiah 13:11. "I made the whole house of Israel and the whole house of Judah cling to me, that they might be for me a people, a name, a praise, and a glory." He saved them from Egypt for this same reason. Psalm 106. "Our fathers rebelled against the Most High at the Red Sea, but He saved them for His name's sake, that He might make known His power." He rescued them from bondage in Babylon with these words, "For my name's sake I defer my anger. For the sake of my praise I restrain it for you. For my own sake I do it. How should my name be profaned? My glory I will not give to another." And He sends Jesus Christ into the world for the same reason, Romans 15:7. Christ became a servant to the circumcision to show God's truthfulness, and in order that the Gentiles might glorify God for His mercy. Christ came to earth that the Gentiles might glorify God for His mercy. Father, the hour has come. Glorify Thy Son, that the Son may glorify Thee. And He's coming back at the end for the same reason. 2 Thessalonians 1. He comes on that day to be glorified in His saints and to be marveled at by all who have believed. He's coming to be glorified. He's coming to be marveled at. This is not Paul's idea, that his life should be defined by living to make much of Christ. This is Christ's design for Christ. This is God's design for Christ. Now, why do I go there? Why don't you, Piper, you just get yourself in trouble when you go there. Why don't you just leave that whole dimension? I mean, those texts that you just rattled off there, there must be 30 or 40 of them in the Bible, way more. Why don't you just leave those aside and say what everybody knows? Namely, Paul wants to be God-centered and Christ-exalting, and that's his duty, and nobody disagrees with that, and so just say that. And I'll tell you why. Saying what people are used to hear changes nobody.